It was just another quiet night. A teenager watching over 2 kids in a small suburban home. The kind of job countless babysitters take every weekend. But at 11:47 p.m., a chilling phone call came in. Her voice trembled. Her words rushed. She whispered one final warning before the line cut dead. Don't let him in. What happened inside that house would leave police, neighbors, and the families forever haunted. And the truth behind who he was is more terrifying than anyone imagined. At first, the neighborhood thought it was nothing more than a prank. A silly teenage scare story. But when police arrived, the living room light was still on, the TV still playing cartoons, and the 2 children were found huddled under a blanket, crying, but alive. The babysitter, however, was gone. Her purse, her jacket, even her shoes were still by the front door. And on the coffee table, her cell phone. The screen cracked, with one haunting voicemail waiting to be played. The investigation pulled detectives deep into her life. She was described as bright, responsible, the kind of babysitter parents fought to hire. But hidden in her phone records was a series of calls she'd made over the past week, to the same unknown number. And in her notebook, tucked inside her backpack, investigators found something chilling. Sketches of eyes, drawn over and over, filling the margins. On one page, just 2 words, written in frantic capital letters. He watches. At first, detectives assumed it was paranoia. Maybe a stalker, maybe an ex-boyfriend. But then a neighbor reported something strange. On the night she vanished, a man had been seen standing across the street, not moving, just watching the house. When police checked nearby cameras, they discovered frames of him. A figure in dark clothing, his face hidden by the glare of the streetlight. But the timeline revealed something even darker. The man wasn't just outside. He'd been circling the house for hours. The children later told detectives that the babysitter kept checking the locks, pacing the hall, whispering to herself that he can't get in. But here's the twist, there was no forced entry, no broken windows, no kicked-in door. Whoever entered that house, she let in willingly. So who was he? Detectives traced the mysterious calls on her phone. Each one pinged from a different burner, but chillingly, all from towers within a 5-mile radius of the babysitter's home. Someone was close, watching her every move. Then, a breakthrough, one of the calls came from inside the very house she had been babysitting in. The chilling implication, he had already been there. But here's where the case twists into something darker. A week later, police found a single item in a wooded area 5 miles away. The babysitter's necklace, broken in half, and nearby, carved into a tree trunk, 3 words that would freeze detectives to the core. Don't let him. The investigation remains one of the most disturbing unsolved cases in the area's history. And to this day, locals swear that at night, they sometimes see a figure standing in the shadows of that same street, watching, waiting. But here's the question that keeps investigators awake even now. If she said don't let him in, did she already know who he was? And if so, why did she open the door?